Mama, it is my decision, Maggie said as she spun away from her mother. Maggie watched as her mother, Sarah Leon Hernandez, puffed up to her full 145 centimeters in height. Her dad always called her Sunny. Where that nickname came from, Maggie was unsure of. Maggie realized that her mother, the woman who had always towered over her, was a finger's length shorter than her now. Normally a dutiful daughter, Maggie was about to leave home, and she could see her mother could understand her reasons. She listened as her mother tried to change her mind about her decision. Her mother's index finger had laid down the law and put the fear into Maggie and her siblings for almost 2 decades. Now, Maggie challenged her. Maggie felt guilty that she hurt her mother's feelings, but not enough to not enlist in the Navy. "You cannot leave. You have an obligation to the family," her mom said as she wagged her index finger at her defiant daughter. "Mama, I have an obligation to myself," Maggie pleaded with her mother. She had hoped her mother would support her, but she knew it would be a long fight. "I will not allow it. I lost your brother. I will not lose you too. Mama, I must do this. I can't stay here. I promise I will come home when I am ready." What Maggie did not say was she was unsure when she would ever be ready. She just did not know enough about the universe she lived in and about herself. There were so many questions and she knew so few answers. All around Maggie, the Leon household kitchen bustled with controlled disorder. Maggie's sisters-in-law were busy as they corralled their children into a manageable herd. The kitchen was the central hub of the household. Heavy equipment and piping dominated the near bulkhead of the kitchen. Piping from the municipal environmental system provided waste heat to cook food and keep her home warm. The cryogenic lines acted as efficient freezers and refrigeration for long-term food preservation. It wasn't legal, but it was thrifty. "You know that I would not have stayed even if I did not want to join the Navy," Maggie said. She loved her mom. "You know that when I get married, I would have to leave to live with my new in-laws. Only men stay with their family. That was the way it is. You know this." Maggie pleaded her case. There were few options outside of that traditional life on Taro. Maggie had an escape plan, and she was determined to see it through. Her love for her family would not dissuade her. "Please come to the swearing-in ceremony, Mama. It is what I want to do." Maggie watched her mother as her round face softened and nodded. "Just promise me that if this doesn't work out, you will come home." Her mother's face was open and worried. There was no anger, but there was concern, even fear. Maggie had not thought of that. "I promise I will stay here on Taro, Mama," Maggie said. She did not promise to return home because she just could not bring herself to lie to her mother. "Will you come to the swearing-in ceremony? I have Father John coming to take my oath. Please?" The trip was a curious mix of the quiet white noise that came from the random noise from the tram and other passengers. There was a tram airlock comfortably near the recruiting station. The short walk over was filled with her mother's nonstop monologue. It finally slowed and eventually stopped as they came to their destination. Maggie just wanted everything to work out. She needed this. She could feel the desperation deep in her soul. It welled up and threatened to choke her. Her chest burned as her heart thundered and her nose began to run. It was not panic. It was powerful. She had come to a crossroads in her life, and she was determined to take a different path than the one her family planned on. It was just so close. At her request, Father John, her parish's priest, who was also a Navy Reserve chaplain, would administer her oath of service. She elected to swear upon the Bible. Others were sworn, or they affirmed as they wished, but Maggie felt the stirrings of her deep faith, and for her it could only be on the Bible that she would swear. Father John waited at the front of the recruiting station, dressed in the white on white of an officer. He tucked his dress hat under his left arm before he waved at her. His broad, round face was heavily creased with a smile, and his almond-shaped golden eyes crinkled, almost closed. "Maggie, how good to see you, my child. And you too, Sonny. I haven't seen you at Mass, Sonny. Maggie has made time to pass your greetings on to me," Father John said. He took the sting from his words as he gave her a big hug. He was not much taller than either Maggie nor her mother. He walked a bit bow-legged. He blamed it on his Mongol ancestors riding horses. Maggie suspected the truth was more likely that he grew up very poor, survived on a poor diet, and suffered from rickets like so many she knew. Whatever the reason, he did not complain about his past. Maggie liked Father John a lot. He taught her how to see into people's hearts no matter what the outside looked like. The first time she watched him help a beggar stand, even though his clothes were matted from feces and reeked of stale urine. After helping him up, he embraced the man and walked him to the church shelter. He said something to her that meant so much to her. It was more than a simple lesson that filth can be washed clean. It was about life. We become what we wish to be by doing it ourselves. We become just by bringing justice to those we wronged. We become temperate by being calm in the midst of chaos. We become brave by being brave in the face of our own fear. And yes, we become strong by using our strength to uplift the fallen and the weak. The ceremony was at Taro's municipal building, but Maggie did not know where she was supposed to go. She was also afraid. At the entrance to the courthouse, Maggie paused. We become brave by doing brave things, she breathed to herself. An elderly lady sat at the information desk. She smiled at Maggie when she stammered out the reason she was there. The old lady directed her to the office marked Clerk of the Court. Maggie soon found that the office was crammed with enlistees and their families. Shortly before the appointed time, they were escorted by a clerk of the court into a large courtroom. The front of the courtroom had been cleared so that the enlistees could stand in formation. The families were directed to sit in the court gallery. The large benches reminded Maggie of church pews. After Maggie and the other enlistees had waited several minutes, the judge, Taro's mayor, and the district's governor all arrived together. To Maggie's surprise, the governor was dressed in a general officer's Marine Corps dress uniform. After everyone in the gallery was seated, the governor began a speech. These young men and women stand before me on the edge of a great adventure. To the parents, relatives, siblings, and friends, they will be forever changed. They will still be the person you have always known, and at the same time, they will grow into a new person. The speech stretched on, and Maggie could see her mother as she quietly cried. Other speeches followed. Finally, each recruit was sworn in together. Father John held the Bible as Maggie prepared to repeat the oath of enlistment. Maggie shed quiet tears as she spoke. Realizing the mission of the Yamato Self-Defense Force, I swear to maintain the peace and independence of our nation. I shall respect the laws, maintain the solemn regulations with one mind, always cultivate virtue, respect individual dignity, train my mind and body, improve my abilities, not participate in political activity, fulfill my duties with a strong sense of responsibility, think not of danger when faced with difficulty, endeavor to do my duty, thereby respond to the trust of the people of Yamato and the Emperor. Amen. Father John breathed quietly. He held the Bible in his left hand and shook her hand with his right. The day afterwards was a blur of activity. At St. Augustine, Father John had a community meal to celebrate Maggie's enlistment. Many of Maggie's friends and relatives attended. It was a strange event that was both joyous and sad. They had come to celebrate her, but also to say goodbye. It felt like a funeral for her, but she was still there to attend it. Over the next few days, Maggie found that she could not just leave right away like her twin brother Alan. She was not academically prepared to go to boot camp. Maggie's education was too far behind to pass the Navy's minimum proficiency exam. Her family was poor. Their only resource was the number of hands that could work the family's ancient mining ship, the primary source of their family's income. Her parents had not been able to spend the family's limited resources on the education of any of the girls. The never-ending yearly banknote had to be serviced first, and the meager scraps left over had to support the family. Girls like Maggie got married and left the family to join her husband's family. The men were the family's future. They needed to be educated to run the family home, business, and boat. The men also got the best food, more of it, and access to the limited medical services that they could afford. Why waste money on a girl? Her mother had asked her long ago when Maggie pointed out the inequity. Like so many young girls before on small outposts, Maggie had to accept charitable help to make up for the lack of food, medicine, and education. The local Catholic church, St. Augustine, filled most of those holes of Maggie's early life on Taro. She had learned to read from the nuns at St. Augustine. She even had her own precious hard copy of the Bible the nuns had given her. Maggie's Bible had seen her through many rough days. It had become worn with age, not from neglect, but from constant use. It was her shield against the cold, hard universe. The pages were smudged with grease and dirt from her fingers. Favorite passages were underlined with the same gray streaks from the well-worn path of her index finger following the words. Dog-eared pages were stained with dirty grease from her calloused fingers. Some of the pages were also lined with dirty watermarks that traced the path of her tears when she faced hard times. Up to age 9, Maggie spent many hours every day at the church. She watched public educational and entertainment programs in class or on the free terminals at the church's soup kitchen. Sister Mary, the Mother Superior at St. Augustine, and the other sisters encouraged her to learn to read and master basic math. However, after Maggie turned 9 years old, she was required to put in work at home. She had no more unlimited time for school. As the years passed, she had to spend more and more time at home with her mom or on the boat with her dad. There was plenty of love, and her family tried to show her their love, but there was so much work to do. The time she had spent with the sisters at St. Augustine had not gone to waste. She was a very quick learner when it came to mechanical systems. She had to read maintenance manuals and had to do math manually because the ship and habitat were designed to be linked to by a neural interface. Without the cybernetic hardware, Maggie and most of her family had to do everything the old-fashioned way with their own hands.